Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the InnerViews. In today's video, we're going to briefly break down how PSG destroyed Real Madrid to kick off their Champions League campaign. But before we do that, don't forget to give our video a thumbs up if you do enjoy it. The bell below does give you daily notifications regarding our organic, unfiltered soccer/footy analysis. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. But now, let's get to the starting lineups. We look at PSG, more of a 4-3-3 with Sarabia, Icardi, and Di Maria up front. In midfield, they went with Verratti, Marquinhos, and Idrissa Gueye. Then we moved to Real Madrid, 4-3-3 as well. What happened here is that they had Hazard, Benzema, and Bale up front. In midfield, Cruz, Casemiro, and James Rodriguez dropping a bit deeper. So now, let's get to the first half and see how PSG pretty much took control of the game and ran away with it in the opening 45. So when we analyzed Real Madrid against PSG, it was a game of few chances, but it was one that PSG dominated for large spells of the match. When we break it down and look at the board, 4-3-3 against 4-3-3, Real Madrid often dropping off into a 4-5-1 without the ball, not really looking to press high. The only times that we did see them kind of shoot out forward was when Benzema was looking to press Thiago Silva and we would have James step into Kimpembe. But besides that, they often dropped off deeper, waited to close down spaces where you'd have Bale and you would have Hazard close out, or they were supposed to close out and press the fullbacks, and the midfield battle was set. We had Verratti against James, we had Cruz against Idrissa Gueye, and that's how they went about it, with Casemiro and sometimes Marquinhos being the spare men. Marquinhos did have the better of that battle, although sometimes you would see Casemiro step to him, but for the most part, Marquinhos was able to deliver diagonal balls out to the wider areas for Meunier, who was often pinching off Eden Hazard to break into that space. The problem there is that Hazard isn't renowned for tracking back, and although he did on a few occasions, it wasn't consistent. And when you look at how they're going to go about that, you're not going to beg Toni Kroos to always drift out into that space. So Meunier was always an outlet for Marquinhos to pick up the ball and deliver diagonal balls out to him to push forward. On the flip side, we did see Marquinhos get into a bit more of an advanced role in the earlier minutes of that game, where we did see Sarabia peel off Mendy and Marquinhos clipped the ball over him, and he tried to nod the ball back to Idrissa Gueye, but Cruz read it and recovered well, and when Gueye was about to shoot it, Cruz stepped in to make that difference. But that was practically the biggest battle of on the field throughout the game. It was Cruz against Gueye, because when you look on the other side, yes, we did have James stepping to Kimpembe to press him, and whenever he did do that, you would have Casemiro simply shift over to ensure that Verratti couldn't get on the ball. But besides that, we didn't really get much from them. There was a lot of late tackles between those two, but for the most part, it was about Gueye and it was about Cruz. Why? Because Cruz is the metronome in this midfield that makes them tick. When he did drop off a bit deeper, Gueye was always with him. For the most part, wherever Toni Kroos moved across the field, Idrissa Gueye swarmed him, harried him, ensured that he never got time on the ball to play key passes. Most often what we do see from Toni Kroos is that he drops off deeper into spaces in beyond half where he knows his markers won't step to him. Here, Gueye pressed and ensured that he couldn't get on the ball. On the flip side, we also saw something different, because when you look at it from PSG's standpoint, you had Sarabia and you had Di Maria closing down Carvajal and Mendy. And what sometimes, like when we had James stepping to Kimpembe, we had Verratti stepping to the spare defender in Varane. And that would have Marquinhos shift over. And there were a few occasions where we had Gueye leave Cruz and he stepped forward to press Militao. And when he pressed Militao, that was often when we saw Sarabia play a bit narrow and sit onto Cruz. And we did see that even when Gueye was in his natural position. And that's how they kind of went about things there. And for the most part, when you even look at that, that does give Real Madrid an outlet. Because what happens now is that when Sarabia is stepping to Cruz, Mendy's free to play the ball to, and that forces Meunier out, which should leave space for Eden Hazard. But whenever Eden Hazard tried to drift into those central areas, which was often, you would see Marquinhos shift out, or you would have Thiago Silva step to him there. Hazard didn't really cause much of a threat, and that was a big issue for Real Madrid, and that really did negate their initial game plan. But we had Gueye stepping out to Cruz, but we see how Gueye dominated that matchup against Cruz from both sides of the game. The first one we see in the opening minutes where we have Gueye step to Cruz to dispossess him. The referee did call for a foul, but that did see Icardi break free on goal and round Thibaut Courtois Courtois. Harsh call, but it did kind of epitomize what PSG were trying to do with Gay. Get him to swarm Cruz in those positions, try to win the ball quickly, break in behind. On the opposite end, what we do see here is that when PSG have the ball, you have Gay dropping off into that midfield zone, and what happens here is as he drops off deeper, that pulls out Cruz towards him. Madrid dropping into a 4-5-1, Thiago Silva pushing forward. What happens now is that allows space for Sarabi to tuck in between Casemiro and Hazard because Cruz is pulled out of position. Thiago Silva plays the ball to him. Hazard's narrow ball out to Meunier, and that's the outlet. So we break down all these aspects of how PSG were really doing their job and getting the better of Real Madrid, but we don't really highlight the chances that they were able to create. But like I said, PSG didn't create that many chances, but when they got into good areas, they were efficient. When we look to the first goal, it's Verratti ahead of Casemiro, and he tries to get the better of him, and he scoops the ball into Icardi holding up Varane. Varane does get the better of it, but he clips it upwards, and it ends up falling to Marquinhos, who nods the ball into Bernat. What we should look at here is that Gareth Bale is in a narrow position right beside Casemiro, and we had Di Maria there also. So what happens there is that Bale ends up pushing forward once the ball was cleared, and Di Maria starts moving into the path of Militao. Bernat has the ball now, and as he's close by Carvajal, he pokes it back into Icardi, who plays the ball beyond Varane into Bernat, making the run in behind him. At this point, Militao should get tighter to Di Maria, but he doesn't, and he's worried about blocking off the pullback cross. So when Bernat plays the ball into the front post, all Di Maria has to do is get onto it and poke it past Thibaut Courtois. Militao has to read that Bale isn't watching that, and he has to step forward closer, but he didn't, and that's how PSG went up 1-0. But what we saw from that goal was obviously Di Maria being involved in a central position. We saw the wing play from Bernat, but we also saw Icardi, who did a very good job around the center backs, occupying them, making them uncomfortable, and he was backing into defenders, linking play, and that is what you want from your center forward, especially if Cavani isn't there. And what we saw when we looked at two other opportunities is how he was able to influence the game. We had Kimpembe with the ball in his zone, and James doing his usual, stepping into him, and once James stepped into him, we had Kimpembe play the ball out into Real Madrid's half for Icardi backing into Militao. What happens there is that he instantly locates Di Maria making a run off that ball, and he plays it into him as he speeds by the Varane, who is coming across. As he speeds by Varane coming across, Icardi peels towards goal and Militao tries to recover. But when Di Maria tries to play that ball into Icardi, Militao does get across to make the difference there. But we do see Icardi getting runners into play, and that was key. And he also got Carvajal booked from a long ball where he backed in and Carvajal couldn't deal with his presence. He was able to, Carvajal had to wrap his arms around him, and that's how Icardi was going about his game. Not getting as much service as you would like, but in a high-profile game like this, he was able to make an impact, and that's all that PSG supporters can ask for. And then when we look to the second goal that puts PSG up 2-0, we see somewhat of what they were trying to do, but they were able to pull Real Madrid out of position easily. From a simple Meunier throw-in, it falls to Gay, who is pressed by Hazard, and he clips it to Marquinhos, who's pressed by Casemiro, and he gets the ball back, and when he goes for the 50-50 with Cruz, it's Gay who pokes it away from him and slides it to Di Maria ahead of the box, and he instantly curls a superb effort past Thibaut Courtois. But when we break it down, PSG were able to get en route to goal through simplistic, basic passing moves, and they were efficient in the final third. Whereas for Real Madrid, although they did get into good areas, they were unable to make the difference, and that was the worrying thing. As you could see, they recorded 0 shots on target, and Zidane and Real Madrid fans won't be happy with that. When we look to their first opportunity, it stems from Benzema dropping back and dispossessing Verratti on the ball, and what happens there is Casemiro is able to slide it to Cruz, and with Marquinhos stepping to him, he plays the pass into James, who's able to pull out Bernat and able to pull out Kimpembe, and play a reverse pass into Gareth Bale, breaking free down the right-hand side. But his cross from the right channel through the 6-yard box is snagged by Keylor Navas before you're able to see Eden Hazard get on the end of it. Shortly after that, we see a cleared header towards Icardi, stepped into by Casemiro, and he fizzes a ball into Benzema, who receives it ahead of the center backs. As he cuts away from Thiago Silva, he lays it off to Hazard, who again gains a yard on Silva, and Marquinhos tracking back, but Hazard fires his shot inches wide of the net. When we look to another opportunity, we see Real Madrid do a bit better in open play, and it stems from Bale dropping the ball back to James, who gets across Verratti and skips past Di Maria to slide a ball beyond Gay for Benzema, again getting into a position in between Meunier and Silva. When he gets in between them and wins the ball, he gains a yard on Silva and lays the ball off to James, breaking towards the box, which is what James wants, but he fires his shot over the net. The final opportunity that we do break down is Real Madrid's best from open play, and it should have resulted in the goal. We have Carvajal with the ball in between, and he's stepping up ahead of Sarabia and ahead of Bernat, and he pokes the ball into the path of James, who is tracked well by Verratti in right half space. When James receives the ball, he then pokes it back to Bale, and Bale ends up sliding the ball into Carvajal in a central role to bypass Sarabia, and when Idrissa Gueye does step towards him, he lays it off to Bale, who fires his shot inches wide of the net. So we're seeing Benzema get involved and bringing markers into play. We're seeing Bale get into advanced areas, but unable to make the difference there, whereas PSG, when they got into those areas, they were making the difference. They were winning the midfield battle. They were finding spaces out on the right-hand side to exploit. So now let's look to the second half, see what changes both managers made and how PSG were able to kill off the game. When we analyze the second half, we encounter Real Madrid enduring the same issues that PSG presented to them in the first half. They did go about their system a bit differently, pushing James a bit higher, closer to Benzema, and that also freed up the midfield battle. Now it's Benzema who deals with the center backs. You have James with Marquinhos, and then Casemiro dealing with Verratti. Still, PSG were able to get into goal-scoring areas easily, and we see that throughout the chances that they do create in the second half. It's Verratti stepping forward in behind James, and he's able to break free and step forward into Real Madrid's half. Casemiro is for some reason in a right back position, and Carvajal's in midfield, so Cruz does step to him, but once Cruz steps to him, he's able to slide the ball to Gay, who is now able to break forward at Carvajal before attracting those two markers in Carvajal and Casemiro to him. What does he do? He slides the ball out to Bernat, who is breaking forward on the overlap, and he delivers across beyond Varane for Icardi breaking into the box, but Courtois is able to kick it away and ensure that Real Madrid clear their danger. But shortly after that, it's Courtois again rolling the ball out to James, and once he rolls the ball out to James, James squares it to Toni Kroos. Verratti instantly steps to Kroos, and Kroos gets a bit nervous and rolls it right back to James with Idrissa Gueye behind him. Gueye is able to dispossess James there, and Verratti is able to pick up the ball ahead of Varane with Di Maria breaking in behind Carvajal. What happens now is that when he breaks in behind Carvajal, he's free on goal with Courtois coming out, and instead of killing off the game, he chips his effort over the net and wastes a golden opportunity. We do see PSG make a change after that. Choupo-Moting does come on for Icardi, and we have Di Maria playing through the center, and we would expect to see some sort of difference in the way that PSG do play, but Choupo-Moting was still involved down the left-hand side, and he saw it instantly when the ball is shifted out to him by Kimpembe with James stepping to him. And what happens now is Choupo-Moting gets the ball ahead of Carvajal and runs across him before back-heeling the ball into the path of Idrissa Gueye. Carvajal then steps to him, and what happens there is he's able to poke the ball beyond him for Choupo-Moting, which does drag out Varane. With Varane dragged out, we do see Bernat running off Gareth Bale and running in behind Carvajal to receive the ball again down that right-hand side beyond Varane. When Bernat receives it, Varane and we have Carvajal step to him, but he's able to turn and play that ball and split them to give it to Di Maria, who drags out Militao. And what we have here, Sarabia making the run across Mendy, and when the pullback is there, he he slides his effort inches wide of the net. What we see from Real Madrid now is that they have to react because they're getting beat down the left-hand side, they're giving up the ball in midfield, and they're not pressing tightly, and that's allowing PSG to easily walk into their half. They end up making two changes. They bring on Lucas Vazquez, they bring on Jovic, and they move to more of a 4-4-2. And what happens now is that in that 4-4-2, you have Jovic, who can now play closer to Benzema. You have Vazquez and you have Bale out in the wider areas, and still Casemiro and Cruz in that midfield. But what happens is that it doesn't really help their case, because now we see PSG also make a change. Ander Herrera does come on for Marquinhos, who can't continue. We have Idrissa Gueye moving to the base of the midfield. You have Herrera and Verratti as the shuttlers. And what we see now is that whenever Luka Jovic did try to get onto the ball, we had Idrissa Gueye following him across the pitch and harrying him, winning the ball on several occasions. We had Herrera stepping to Toni Kroos in the same manner and continuing with the energy that Idrissa Gueye showcased throughout that opening hour and a bit, and he was closing down Cruz and he wasn't able to get onto the ball, and still we had Verratti step into Casemiro. There was one incident in particular that epitomizes Gueye's work throughout the game, and it does see Toni Kroos finally get some space in midfield to play a pass in between Herrera and in between Sarabia for Benzema, dropping off of Thiago Silva. We see Benzema receive the ball and he's able to spin away from Sarabia and spin away from Thiago Silva, and Idrissa Gueye is in that space and he follows Benzema and ends up dispossessing him with a tackle from behind to win the ball back. But like I said, he was harrying Jovic, he was intercepting passes into him, he was pressing him when he tried to get the ball in those areas, and Real Madrid struggled throughout. However, they did create one opportunity in the second half that possibly should have led to a goal, and it stems from a PSG error. It's Verratti giving up the ball, it's Casemiro stepping into it. Eventually the ball gets played out from Cruz, sliding it wide, and it ends up at Lucas Vazquez's foot around the edge of the right side of the box, and he locates Jovic making the run in between the center backs, and he also locates Benzema making it in between Thiago Silva and in between Meunier to peel off and get a free header in the box, but he gnawed his effort inches wide. Vinicius came on for Bale. Meunier ended up capping off the game to score the third goal, and this was a well-deserved win from PSG. They set up to be destructive in midfield, they man-marked across the pitch. When they broke in transition, they were able to be efficient, and Real Madrid were lifeless throughout. Their big players didn't show up, and without the ball, they didn't get close enough to PSG players who punished them. But let me know what you guys think. Personally, I don't think Zidane is the right man for the job, and he's showing that this season. Or perhaps it's the players. Are they responsible for Real Madrid's poor start to the season? Are they good enough to be at the club? And when we look to PSG, is this win an indicator that they could go far in the Champions League this season? Don't forget, I upload videos every day, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to look out for my next video where I'm going to break down Juventus' tie with Atletico Madrid. And that was your daily dose of the interviews.